Moments with God, a time of reflection for every day.
January 23rd, Blessings of Obedience. And Daniel resolved in his heart not to defile himself with the portion of the king's food, nor with the wine that he drank. He therefore asked the chief of the eunuchs not to force him to defile himself. Daniel 1:8. In the year 605 BC, the king of Babylon invaded the Jewish capital and took many captives and prisoners of war. Among the prisoners were 4 young men who feared God in their hearts, and their decision was to serve the Lord at all times, regardless of the circumstances. Daniel, Mishael, Ananias, and Azariah were 4 young men who belonged to the nobility of Jerusalem. And as prisoners, they went to the region of the Chaldeans to serve a king who did not know God and whose customs were idolatrous. What decisions would we have made in similar situations? Do we persist in serving God even when we are far from our church brethren? Is it our decision to firmly follow Christ when no one of our faith is around us? Are we faithful to the Lord's precepts even in the midst of people who do not fear the Lord? The Bible tells us about young Daniel and his 3 other companions. They were only about 17 years old, and the time had come for them to live far from their homeland, their parents, and their religious community. The new country offered too many temptations, vices, and pleasures. They were also ordered to practice some customs different from their faith. But Daniel decided not to contaminate himself with the king's customs. The 4 young men, unlike the other prisoners brought from Jerusalem, went to serve at the king's court. Since the king saw in them potential, virtue, strength, and wanted to educate them in Babylonian customs and in the religion of the nation so that they could serve as governors in some provinces. But the education that the king offered them was contrary to the Jewish customs and the commandments of God. Therefore, Daniel preferred to be faithful to the Lord, even if his loyalty cost him his life. The first test was regarding the food. The king used to eat foods dedicated to his god Marduk. Consequently, every advantage obtained from food, strength, and energy the Babylonians said was due to the blessing of Marduk. In addition, there were animal foods that the Jews called unclean, and by law they should not eat them. So Daniel chose not to eat them. But it was not easy to leave them, since the food was ordered by the king, and if they were not well nourished, they wouldn't be healthy or have a fresh mind, and this would cost the life of the one who was in charge of feeding them. That is why Daniel asked for a 10-day test, and his food was grains, legumes, and water instead of wine. He was nourished by natural nutrients, and God gave him the blessing of it. At the end of the test, Daniel and his companions had healthier appearances than other young people from other nations. God always honors the righteous. The erect posture, the firm and elastic step, the beautiful countenance that showed that the blood was uncorrupted, the lucid senses, the pure breath, all were so many certificates of good habits, insignia of the nobility with which nature honors the human beings who are obedient to God's laws. Obedience always brings blessings. The 10 Commandments bring happiness to the believer. In addition, there are also natural laws that govern the body, and it is necessary to comply with the laws of health. Thus, we would avoid so many ailments and diseases that exist in the world. Good eating habits produce health in people. The story of Daniel and his companions has been recorded in the pages of the inspired Word for the benefit of all young people of all successive ages. The youth of today can give a similar testimony, even under equally unfavorable circumstances. Obedience to God's laws, both moral and physical, will always result in the blessings of the Lord. Therefore, let us be careful not to break any laws. Let us try to take care of our mind and our body for the glory of the Lord. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this audio. We invite you to share with your contacts and visit the website BibleWell.com.